What's going on, big bro?
What's good? What's good?
Yeah, I was having some difficulties with the AirPods. I forgot to switch it over.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Let's see. Let's see.
oh, we
Ese
have
tía
Mama and
Mael is
Papi on there.
on.
Yep.
Bendición tía, bendición tío. Gotta hydrate.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope everyone started the year off right. Um, it's 2022. For those who logged on with us last week, um, who we got?
Let's see. We got
Oh,
Tia
we have a
Morena
few
on
people
there.
coming in.
Bendición tía.
Yeah, bendición tía.
I see my brother Junior Guerrero on there as well.
Junior,
Feliz
what's
año,
going on?
tía.
Feliz año, feliz año. So yeah, like we mentioned, we're trying to get the year started right,
Yes,
with a
sir.
different mindset, um, no beating around the bush. We did put a lot of information out there, a lot of experience, things that we should be doing starting off.
Yeah, gotta come into this year with a kingdom mindset.
Try and fail, but never fail to try. Keep that in mind in anything you do. Anything you do. Blessings, Junior, blessings. She's simply amazing. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thank you. I appreciate it. Wishing you the best, you and your family. Again, I hope the year started off right for everyone. And even for those who don't feel like the year started off right, like we always say, just be patient. Uh, all this is temporary. Whatever it is that's making you feel like, uh, man, I started my year off wrong, things are going wrong. Just keep in mind all that stuff is temporary. Try not to focus on the negative because the more you focus on the negative, the more negative you attract into your life. And you'll be surprised in, like the forms that they come, the way, you least expect. So keep a positive mindset.
Most definitely. And just, it's easy to get into the mindset of, and I think we touched upon this last week. It's easy to come into the mindset of like, yo, this year's different. This is gonna be my year. Um, nah, the moment that you want something different, that change starts the moment you decide that change starts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
The moment you decide to believe the promises that God says about you, that's the time that you can flip it. It doesn't have to be January 1st, right at midnight or something like that. Don't fall into that trap.
that's right. That's right. It's real easy to fall into it. It can be a number of situations. It might be something at home, situation at work, you know, outside. It can be a number of things. We can't just let it get to us.
Exactly.
We really can't. So, all right, we gave it a few minutes and we have a few people in the room now.
Yeah, let's get it moving.
Let's get it going. Let's get it going. All right, so I wanted to start this one off with life and thoughts. We're going to focus on just life overall and thoughts.
Okay.
Um, what exactly do I mean by that? So, here we go. Does your life feel meaningless? What exactly is that's making you feel this way? Is it a person, a result, the amount of failures, your job, a task, or substance, etc.? The list goes. It's a very general question. There are people out there that where their life feels like it means nothing. Maybe they're tired because they're going through the same situation over and over. Or if there's a situation that doesn't improve, it doesn't get any better. Um, it can be a number of things, and I'm sure we've all been there where, we all go through hardship and not all hardships leads to that mindset, but there are some that do, or some people that do, because it really depends on the person, you know. We don't know the type of trauma that they've experienced, the level of degree of that specific situation that they went through or are going through. Sometimes we overcome, we go through a situation and we're done with it, but the trauma stays with us, and we spoke about the healing process last week, which is major. So again, for those who just joined in, does your life feel meaningless? What exactly is it that makes you feel this way? Is it a person, a result, the amount of failures, your job, a task, or substance? What do you think about that, Pastor Carlos?
Well, to be honest with you, I think right off the bat, you have to really look into it if you feel that your life is meaningless, and you have to figure out, okay, what's your reason though? Like, or really, instead of looking at what's the reason, why don't you go the flip side, go the opposite direction? Ask yourself, okay, what would make your life have a meaning? Because that's the thing. A lot of times it's easy to let the situations come at you and be like, okay, my life feels meaningless because my spouse, my partner, things ain't working out there, or my kids are acting up, or my job ain't right, or it could be a number of different things, right? But how many times do we ask ourselves, well, what do you feel would give your life meaning though?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times what happens, some people will come in and be like, nah, it's because I'm looking for the perfect person. But that person, number one, you're never gonna find a perfect person, because it just doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? But you fall into it like, okay, well, if I've got this person, if we're talking about it being a person, you fall into that relationship, or you say, I want it to be a job. Like, yo, if I had this job, or not even a job, if I had this money, or if I had these
Yeah,
particular, circumstance X, Y, and Z change, yo, my
multiple
life would have
situations.
a
Yep.
exactly, my life would have a meaning. But how many times do we find that if we're looking for something to give our life meaning, when those things come, your life is still meaningless? Because
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people, the way things are going to work is, once you've attained what you believe was going to give your life a meaning, as human beings, we're never satisfied with just that. Now we want, like, we're already moving on to the next. Like, we want the next thing. You know what I'm saying? Case in point, if it's a relationship and you're not married, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I really want this relationship, right? And then you supposedly find this person, but then you start looking toward, what can I change about this person, right? What can I change about this person? Or maybe I'm already looking forward to the next thing. I just met them, and like 2 days later, I want to get married. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm already looking, like, you're not even content just in that moment. You're already looking to the next thing. You're not finding, like, if that person was going to give you purpose, you already don't have purpose, because it's like you received what you wanted, but it still didn't give you a purpose. So now you're looking to the next thing. Or I want this job. So you go and you get that job. Bro, I don't know how many people I found that go and they get the
Mm-hmm.
job supposedly that they want, and then once they got that job, like, they're already looking toward the next job.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's right away, sometimes it's a few days later, sometimes a couple of weeks later, a month later, they're already looking, updating their resume, like, yo, this ain't one, I think I could get something better. Those things don't give you purpose. And if I can give you the reality, the situation, the only thing that gives your life meaning or purpose, you're not going to find that on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you from experience, you will never find that on your own, because the
And
one
you
that
made a
gives you
good point.
purpose is God. You know what I'm saying? God gives you purpose. If you get a relationship with Him, He's going to show you what He wants you to do. He's going to show you what's for your life. But if you're looking for somebody to fill that void, or something to fill that void, to give you meaning, you're going to go around in circles for the rest of your life. You'll never find anything to fill that void.
Yeah. No, and I want to backtrack on what you said. How people tend to attach themselves to things. That specific salary, making a certain amount of money, or if they had $1 million. You know, honestly, there's nothing that can buy happiness. And when you hear these, we hear it on social media, we hear it in movies, we hear it. We hear people saying it all the time. If I had $1 million, or if I had this amount of money, I'll be able to do this, and I'll feel so good. I'll be happy. I won't be this stressed. Sometimes money brings more stress. because it's what you do with the money, right? On top of that, when you have the money, right, it's present. Um, you you're not happy. You know, you're probably happy the second you receive the money, but give it a few months. Give it a year or so. Once you're used to, seeing that amount of money or receiving that amount of money, that's when your mind goes right back into, wait a minute, but I thought if I received this amount, or if I received this job, or if I had this person, that I would be happy. And that's when reality would always kick in, regardless. It takes time. Time tells all. There's a
Yep.
saying that says time tells all. And I feel like that applies to everything. So I like the fact that you brought that up. Because a lot of people make that mistake, and they
And it goes
really
back,
think, and
the million
mhm,
dollar example you gave is perfect because it goes back to what we talked about last week. And I actually got the actual statistic for you. Lottery winners. Doesn't matter if
yeah,
you made 1 million or you made 500 million. Lottery winners in general. Lottery winners, okay? So a lottery winner is automatically like you're in the millions, right? 70% lose everything 5 years or less. 5 years or less. They
hmm,
already lost it all. But you know why? I'm gonna give you the exact reason why. The enemy, real quick, it will come into you. Your life will be better if you have $1 million, right? So what happens the moment you have $1 million? Because you had a hole in your heart that needed to be filled, and you got it twisted that a mill is gonna fix it all. 2 mills gonna
hmm,
fix it all. So you go and you finally receive it, right? Next thing you know, that mill doesn't fix it. Where you staying at right now, even if you have a house or you got a souped up apartment, whatever, that's not enough. You need
hmm,
something to bring your status up. So don't go with that house that you probably already paid off, or that apartment you already paid off, or where you're good at right now. Go buy something better. Or, you know what, that Toyota you got is nice, but go buy yourself the Lambo. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
because it's not enough. And the next thing you know, the Lambo doesn't do it. The house doesn't do it. This doesn't do it. That doesn't do it. And you continuing to see like kind of like a puzzle. What can I put in there that's gonna like fit perfect where I'm not gonna have a hole? But you're always gonna be missing something. So the mill ain't gonna do it. That's why these lottery winners is like, I'm gonna get this house, and I'm gonna get this, and I want people to like me, so I'm gonna give them money, and I'm gonna buy this, and I'm gonna buy this person that. And next thing you know, that you start spending, 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 spending. And at the end of the day, you spent all your money. 5 years or less, 70% of them lose everything. I mean, that's
yeah,
perspective for you. That's perspective. And that, again, this is not about money. Some people get into that relationship. Some people get into that job. And it's like, it does not work. Like, if you went in thinking that that was going to resolve your issue, you're gonna end up getting out the same way you came in, feeling
hmm,
empty. And you might end up worse because there's a lot that you might give up. You might be giving up your time. You might be giving up your effort. You might be giving up love.
yeah. There's a
If you got it, yeah,
sacrifice and
if you
everything.
got into the wrong relationship, you might even have a few kids with the baby mama or the baby daddy that you don't think you want. You know what I'm saying? Like that ultimately you didn't want, but now you got the kids by them, and oh my gosh, that's a whole nother issue, bro. A whole nother issue. But why? Because you were trying to fill in something that you yourself can never fill in. Only God can fill that in. So you're always gonna feel empty. It's not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? This is what it's about. So are you thinking that something's gonna give you self-worth? Because I'm telling you, something or someone here on this earth is never gonna do it. It will
And you
never
know
do it.
what? That's right. And before I lose this thought, it was a video that I came across, which has to do with, funny enough, what I have coming now has also to do with this video, right? It was, it had to do with careful with what you're attracting, right? With what you're thinking, right? Because whatever you think becomes reality eventually, right? So if you feel like things are going bad, things will go bad eventually. The way you least expect it, it come life throws at you in different ways, and you never know what to expect. Uh, but let's just say uh, if you're thinking positive and you have great things happening in your life, that's also dangerous too. You have to know how to handle that, and not get too comfortable or too cocky, right? Because you always have to be prepared. You always have to be grateful, for these things. Be grateful for the bad times as well, because bad times do teach you a lot, right? But also, since what you're thinking becomes reality, sometimes we tend to gain opportunities as we go, right? Making money, we find someone special, you find a good job, and you find yourself attaching yourself to those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're not hoping for it, you got it. So now you're attached to it. And then the law of detachment, is something that's huge, because even though you're getting all these goods, right? You have to know and tell yourself, I can't get attached to this. This is not what makes me. You always have to remember who you are. And like you were mentioning, always have to believe in God, right? Always pray no matter what, because people tend to pray only when things go wrong, right? But when things are going great,
Facts.
it's like they really don't have time to do it, right?
Like
Or
you
they do it
forget.
when they can. Yeah, but you
Mm-hmm.
never forget whenever you're having a bad day. You don't
Yep.
forget whenever you're having a bad week. You don't forget when you have a problem that's recurring. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's something that it's huge. It's huge.
No, and this is the
It's
importance
huge.
too of being, of having that relationship with God and being able to be connected. Because what you said about like, oh, I attract, I attract what I think. Well, that is biblical, because it
Mm-hmm.
says in the word itself, in numerous occasions, it tells you death and life are in the power of the tongue. Like you
Mm-hmm.
will, what you call it, and those who love it will eat its fruits. So what does that mean? I want you to think about this for a second. If you've never heard this before, it's the importance of having that relationship with God. Because even if you don't read the Bible for yourself, if you start having a relationship with God and you hear it in a preaching or something like that, you'll come across it at some point. But when it says death and life are in the power of the tongue, that essentially is exactly what you were just talking about. If you speak negative, guess what fruit you're going to eat? You're going to eat that negative fruit. So if it's like,
Yep.
oh, yeah, I can see that this job might give me a promotion, but I never get a promotion. The promotion always goes to somebody else. Or
Mm-hmm.
nah, I can never have a good relationship. And the problem is because of this and this and that in my past, and that's what I always attract. Well, what you think you're going to attract is what you're speaking. With
Yeah.
your tongue, you are giving death to that, and you're giving life also to the bad things that are going to come, because you're declaring, this is what I'm speaking out. But to that same degree, it's why even you have people that, even if they're not believers, start speaking things of nothing but like positive thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I remember one time somebody gave me an example of a family member of theirs who they were like, man, this dude, he just uh, there's just something about him that when he wakes up in the morning, people were like, yo, but why you got this swagger to you? Like, why are you
Mm-hmm.
so, why does it seem like people pay attention to you when most people around you would think like, why would anybody ever pay attention to this dude? But it's because from the moment that he would wake up in the morning, I remember his sister told me, from the moment that he woke up in the morning, he would stand in front of a mirror and look at himself, and he'd be like,
Mm.
I feel like $1,000,000 today. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That was his exact words, was supposedly, I feel like $1,000,000 today. And so it would be like, I'm going to speak this positivity about myself. And you see this with a lot of people that may not necessarily be Christians and they don't believe in God and anything like that, but they
Yeah.
speak these words of positivity. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's what they bring. Case in point, if we want to relate it more to like more to things that people see, because a lot of times it's visual stuff. How many times have you seen a guy, like, I could give you a good example, Notorious B.I.G., Biggie, you know, not a handsome dude in the least bit. He wasn't handsome. But if you look at that time, he had a lot of like, females, even before he blew up.
Yeah.
He had a lot of good looking
It
women
was
that
his
paid
energy,
attention
the
to him.
vibes,
But it
the
was his
energy, the
energy, his
vibes.
vibe. It was like, no matter what, I'm going to do good. This is good. I'm like, this is what I am. Like, he was speaking words of positivity about himself. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is that this is what you speak, this is what you're giving life to. So other people start to see that because it attracts something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just imagine when you realize that God says that in your tongue, you have the power to speak life or death. And especially, depending on what you're going to speak, that's the fruit that you're going to eat from. So if you speak these negative things, guess what you are going to attract? Guess what you're going to eat? All that negativity. What you spoke out
And
is
you,
going to come right back. And if you speak the
yeah,
positive, there you go. You're going to receive the
and
positive.
there's a lot of people, even I would say even myself, and I'm sure that many can relate when they don't have knowledge of many things, right? So what would it be? Let's say for people that read the Bible, for people that are unaware of the energy that actually exists in this universe, right? Basically, what you put out does come right back, you know? There's a documentary that I tend to watch. I would watch it more if I'm having like a bad time, not so much of a bad day, because anyone can have a bad day any given day, right? If I see for a long period of time things are going wrong, and for some reason my mind is shifting back to the negative, right? Because we're human, so we want to be careful. Once you're aware, you can always shift it right back, no matter what thoughts are crossing your mind. The documentary, The Secret. They also have a book, The Law of Attraction. It's real, you know. And ever since I watched that the first time, I tend to watch it on a yearly right basis. Sometimes I might watch it twice a year, just to continue to remind myself. And it's something that I recommend also a lot of people because it does help, the second you're aware of these things, a lot of things change. But
Yeah.
if just imagine the people that they don't have any idea, they just think that life is a certain way, it's supposed to go a certain way. It doesn't matter what I say or what I do, things are supposed to be right because I'm going to school. Things are supposed to be right because I'm making a good amount of money. Things are supposed to be right because my household is in place, is stable. There's many things that can go wrong, you know,
Yep.
many things that can go wrong. So I feel like, everyone really has to prepare themselves mentally, because the mind can shift easily, very
No,
easy.
absolutely.
With that
Absolutely. And
said,
you have to take
oh,
care
go
of your
ahead, go ahead.
mind with that. No, you have to take care of your mind with that. And that's
Yeah.
also why it's so important to um, you know, know about these particular things so that you know that this is real because there's a lot of things biblically that people don't even know the Bible do in their life. And it's like they put these things out and they receive what the Bible
Mm-hmm.
says back, but it's because it's a law of God. You know what I'm saying? Even if they don't know it, it's a law of
Yeah,
God. So it's part of knowing so that if you're stuck in a cycle, you know how to break that cycle. You feel me?
that's right. Yeah. And so going back to what we mentioned, right? If a person's life feels meaningless, like what is it? What's the cause? Because there has to be something, right, that makes you think that or makes you feel that way. So the next thing is be very careful. Be very careful with who you keep around, receiving advice, or who you're receiving advice from, or staying in communication with. Because aside from what we just finished mentioning, this is one of the factors, right? Now we're gonna go down the list. Or stay in communication with. You shouldn't be discussing anything with just anyone, right? So that's huge too, because well, with this here, it says it's all about influence, right? Is who are you receiving information from? Who are you receiving advice from, right? Because the same way someone, if you're going through hard times, right, and someone's offering you substance, right, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or whatever it is, but then you have someone that introduces you to God, right? You
Yep.
have someone else that introduces you, like I did not too long ago with the documentary, The Secret, right? The Law of Attraction, with things to better your life, not to have temporary relief, but to focus more on the permanent relief, right? So that's one thing that people have to be very, very careful. Who are you keeping around? Who's in your circle? Who are you discussing anything with? You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a bad situation. Anything that's going right in your life. Because again, energy and vibes do exist. And when you discuss these things with people, you don't know what they're throwing your way. They don't have to say anything. They can just think it, you know? Some of us even feel um the negative energy at times. Sometimes, and you feel the positive energy as well when someone is really happy for you. Oh man, I'm really happy that this is happening. Congrats. God bless. It's a blessing. But then you have others that aren't really happy for you.
Yeah.
So what are you doing discussing anything with that person?
And it's interesting that you say that because as you mentioned that, it just brought to my mind, how many times have we seen people who try to start something new? Maybe, like for example, maybe they try to start up a business, and the
Mm-hmm.
people that supposedly they were confiding in all this time that try to give them advice, or they just put out what's going on in their life or whatever. When the time comes around that it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna do something, support me. It's like those people are ghosts, like they're gone, like you don't see them nowhere. And in fact, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
times, you have one of two situations: either they're ghost and you can't find them nowhere, and they're not supporting your business, or they're doing the opposite. They're going to other people and talking to them about how, oh, that'll never work, this will never happen, that'll never happen for that person. But that's the person that you confide in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very, very careful because there's a lot of people that don't want well for you, but at the same time, especially if you're connected with God, the enemy doesn't want well for you, and he will use people around you. Sometimes it'll be some people closest to you that can be used to take you away from the path that he wants you to go down. And if you ain't
Yep.
connected, you won't see it. I'll give you another example real quick. My daughter, my youngest daughter, when she was little, she wouldn't talk much to people. And in fact, it was funny because if she didn't like somebody, they could come next to her and they could be saying her name literally right next to her, and she would like look the opposite direction, just like that person wasn't there. And I remember that her doctor would be like, well, maybe it's autism or whatever. I'd be like, well, she
Hmm.
doesn't really have any other signs of autism or anything. We're not going to receive that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Because we know that God can work everything for your good, including autism, and I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Here with kids that I've pastored. But just to tell you that when a speech therapist came, the first one was kind of weird, but the second one was like, I can tell you your daughter has no issues. She's got no problems at all. She's just fine. She just doesn't want to talk to those people. And later, as years went by, someone who's very connected with the Lord went and told us, what's probably the thing? She could tell in her spirit that something is wrong here with this person. And because she's so sensitive to it, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to shut it down. The moment that thing is coming to me, I'm not paying attention to it. I'm shutting it down. And that what I'm shutting down might even be a person. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that a lot of times we don't have that spiritual sensitivity, or we just don't care to see, or we're not connected with God. So God doesn't reveal it to us because we're not even asking for a revelation from him. And next thing you know, you got this, bad spirit behind you. People that are literally right there, that have nothing good with them, nothing good
Mm-hmm.
attached with them. And there you are. You're not sensitive to it because you're not even connected. You're not asking for that guidance. You have no clue. And at the same time, you might even be naive thinking, oh, everybody wants well for me. All my friends want well for me. All my family want. I'll tell you right now, that is not the case.
Yeah.
That is
Yep.
not the
We
case.
said it. We said it a
You
number of
know,
times.
so
We said it
it's
a
it's
number of
bad.
times. It's something to keep your eyes open because not everyone wants good for you. And sometimes it's the people you least expect. Um, with that said, right there, uh, I also wrote down some people just want to know what you're up to. They may want to sidetrack you in some way. They may be in competition with you in some way. They may be sending negative vibes your way so things won't pan out as they should.
Yep.
They may be discussing you, your ideas, or situations with others. You hear that? So that's critical. That's critical because right there I just finished. The list goes. You know, it's a lot that goes on whenever you put your life out into the world, right? Whenever you mention it to someone, you don't know what's going to happen with that. There's some things that are supposed to be kept private. the damage that can be done could be a lot greater, than how you're feeling that moment. Because, that problem that you're having, by discussing with someone else, you don't know what's going to happen with that. Maybe they're going to pass it on to someone else. Someone else may think you're crazy. Someone may be thinking, oh, things are going good, but it won't last long. You know what I mean? Because we've experienced this a number of times. Whether it's in school, in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace, you can feel the vibe, the way people speak to you, the treatment you get. No one has to be direct for you to feel that type of negative vibe. No one has to be direct. If someone has like a minimal level of respect for you, that speaks volumes.
In fact, it's funny that
In
you say
general.
that. It's funny that you say that they don't have to be direct, because you and I
No.
have been discussing a situation, that you were sharing with me that from here in the last few weeks, and then I had shared a situation that my wife had gone through, and who was the
Yeah. Yeah.
person
Yeah.
looking to do the most harm? It was the person that was staying the quietest, right? And not only were they staying the quietest, but in the face of the person that they were trying to do the harm to, they
Mm-hmm.
were putting up a completely different person. Like, they were trying to show, oh my goodness, I'm here for you. This is who I am. We're friends. We're this, we're that. You would have
Mm-hmm.
never thought ever in your life that that person would do what they are doing. But later on, as things started to unravel, that's the beauty of God, is if you ask for revelation, you might not get the revelation right away, but he might give you
Exactly.
the revelation a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. As the revelation was asked for, I remember in the case of, in your case, it was like about a year later. In my wife's case, it was like 2 or 3 years later. Somebody came and was like, hey, listen, um, we're looking to do, maybe we're looking to bring you back, or we're looking to do this, we're looking to do that. And then it's like, oh, I don't know about that. And all of a sudden, that person starts asking questions, and they're like, yo, I knew that something was not right about what I had heard from other people. And it's like, well, what did you hear from other people? Oh, that this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And you're like, wow, that's not even how it went down. Seriously? And it was like, yeah, that person that was being nice in front of your face did all this shady stuff to do you harm,
That led to the
that
final
led
result.
to whatever it led to, whatever was the final result. But God always reveals things that are done in the darkness. He always does. Maybe not immediately, but down the road. But what does this go to prove? This goes to prove that that person who's right there and they're being friendly, you might even consider them to be a friend or a very close coworker or wherever it is, in your face might be telling you something. And their actions behind the scenes is a complete 180 of what they're doing in your face. You
Mm-hmm.
see what I'm saying? You have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
Very
And,
careful.
and something that's critical, because again, the list is long, and it's good that we put these the different situations because multiple people can relate. If you have a healthy relationship, right? Or let's just say just a relationship, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't have no relationship is perfect, right? But you may have friends that envy your relationship because they don't have that, you know they're in a tough situation. Man, look at this person, look at, he's happy or she's happy, why can't I be that happy? you know um and they can actually do things to take that away from you. And
Yep.
again, it doesn't have to be direct where they're gonna, listen, I'm gonna do a few things where it's gonna mess up your relationship, and I'm gonna do it this way. No, no, what they're gonna do is they're gonna provoke you. They'll call you. You want to go ahead and let's go out. you know um, what do you mean, let's go out? Let's go, let's do what? you know go out and do what? Because when you're in a relationship, there's certain places that you shouldn't be in. you know there's certain things that you shouldn't be doing, right? There's certain times of the day that you shouldn't be out for multiple reasons. You have your kids at home, that's taken away from your time. Not that you have to be a prisoner, right? Because you can always have the communication and the understanding and the agreement. Okay, no problem. But when it's consistent, that should be an eye. Whoa, what's going on here? It's not like, like let's say when we were single. You know, if we're gonna go out, it would be on a weekly basis, every weekend. You know, you choose like maybe either Friday or Saturday. You know, people are putting you at risk for a reason, and you never know. You know what I mean? It can be at work where you're asked to do a task, but you know that it's not something that you should be doing, or if it's something that they want you to do, you have to get approval for. You know, it might be someone setting you up. No, no, go ahead. It's fine. We don't have to get approved for this. Just go ahead and do it. You just never know what it is. Maybe somebody's trying to knock you from your position, trying to get you demoted, you know, because they know you're about to get promoted. You know, the word around the workplace is, you know, X person is great. You know, they're professional. They know how to communicate. They're a people's person. I think they can take this department really far. Let's try and give them this position, you know, but we're going to test them out for the next few weeks. You never know what's happening. You never know. And you
Yep.
never know what the intention of that other person is.
Yeah, and especially if it's a blessing, if you know that it's a blessing that you're receiving from God, believe me, the enemy can use anybody that he wants, anybody or anything that he wants. The enemy doesn't want you to be blessed. He wants the
Mm-hmm.
opposite. You understand that the enemy is jealous. He's jealous of the status that children of God have been given. You know, so especially if you're a believer, if you understand who God says you are, the enemy is envious of that. You know, us as
Mm-hmm.
human beings, he's envious that God is like, you know, hey, who I'm going to give everything to is a human being, not you. You know what I'm saying? That's why he's saying that's why he is
Yeah.
what he is. You know what I'm saying? So that's why from the very beginning, his whole thing was, let me trick, let me deceive you, let me do what I can to take away your blessing. Do you think that that only was like, oh no, but that was just Adam and Eve to get them out of the garden? No, even today, he's trying to steal blessings. He's trying to steal
Mm-hmm.
things that belong to you because he's jealous. So that's why it's a thing of like, he can use whoever he wants and whatever he wants to try and steal what you're being blessed with. So
Yeah.
if it's your job, if you're walking into a job and you're like, yo, I feel at peace with this job, I feel like this is where I should be, I feel good, believe it. He is going to do something. He's going to have someone around looking to take away your job. If it's a relationship, you know, you got a new relationship, you got a marriage, whatever it is, best believe that if you know that it's something that God has given you, like, oh man, God has given me the best husband, God has given me the best wife, God has given me wonderful kids, God has given me whatever, you best believe that he's going to do whatever he can to destroy your relationship and to kill your family, because he doesn't want you to have a blessed family and a blessed relationship. That's against what you think that he's sitting there. Imagine the devil sitting in that chair. Man, I'm so glad Joaquin has a beautiful family. You know, good for him. Nah, he's like, man, there's Joaquin with his family. He's been blessed. You know what I'm saying? No, it sure would be a shame if something happened with that family. Let me see what I could do to mess that family up. You know, because when God gives you something that's a blessing, the enemy's gonna want it. The enemy, and if the enemy
Yeah.
can't have it, he's going to want to destroy it. You know what I'm saying? Because what he comes to do is he comes to lie, to kill, and to destroy. That's his purpose. That's the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of Satan. That's the purpose of the enemy, is to lie, to kill, and to destroy. So he's going to lie about you. He's going to lie about you know, your relationship, your kids, your job, your money, your business, whatever it is. He's going to lie about all that,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's going to try to kill it. And if he can't kill it, he's going to start attacking, because he's going to try and destroy and see if maybe that will cause you to let things go and let things die. Because if it's something that God gave you as a blessing, he will want to come and destroy it. You
And
gotta pay attention. Be woken up to that.
we mentioned before many times, you know, we're mentioning people, right? We also mentioned in the past episodes, you know, maybe like two or three, or we always tend to like bring it in the conversation. Social media is also something that does affect a lot of relationships,
Oh,
you know, because
absolutely.
you see things that may not be reality, you know, and you know, sometimes you feel a certain way because maybe you're working so hard, you're going to school, you really don't have time to do the things that you're seeing on the platform that others are doing or close friends, And it's like, that does affect you in a way, and that can actually cause problems.
Yep.
And sometimes you won't even notice it happen. You won't even see it. You're like, oh, but I work so hard. Why I'm not going on vacation? Yeah, but are you swiping your credit cards 3 times, 4 times a year when you're really not supposed to be doing it, or you can't? Again, all that financial stuff is their business. I'm just trying to make a point here. What I'm trying to say is, whatever you're seeing may not be real, you know? And sometimes people take vacations just for others to see. Like, look, I'm on the beach. I'm here in Puerto Rico, you know? Then you have other people who can actually fly out, which is, you will never know who's who on social media. It's hard. It's hard to separate, right? The people that can really afford it, that can really do it. Because when I see these type of pictures, it does motivate me. What is it that I have to do to work hard for me and my family to be able to do this? Because it's not that you envy. When you see that, all we're trying to do is protect your mental state. That's when we bring up social media, we're not trying to knock anybody. All we're trying to do is help the people that are thinking that their life doesn't mean anything, or their life isn't enough, or that they're not doing enough, and you're doing plenty. If you're working hard, if you're putting food on your table, you have a roof over your head and over your children, if you have any, you're doing the right thing.
Yep.
There's people out there taking vacations or buying designer clothes before they actually put food on the table. Or obviously they put food on the table because that's how we survive. The quality of food that they're putting on the table, right? And we understand different situations, because let's just say if for some reason you're eating a lot of fast food, it doesn't mean that you're trying to harm your family or yourself. It's what you can afford at the time.
It's what you can afford.
So you have to work with it. What I'm trying to say is, there's people out there putting a movie out, this is what I'm doing every weekend. I'm going out. They'll pop bottles. They'll take a trip before they pay their child support.
Yep.
They'll do all these things before they pay their rent, or they pay part of their rent, and they owe part of their rent. So it's something. Social media is great for a lot of reasons, especially business. I love it, but social media can also be a major weapon against us. Against
Yep.
ourselves. Our mental state. So it's something that people really have to keep in mind. And we keep repeating this. What I love about us and the way that we bring the social media topic up, it's always different, right? We always find a way to attach it to something that we're trying to explain,
Right.
and I feel, again, every time I bring that up, I also bring up the youth. We have to have these conversations with our kids, whether it's your daughter, your son, your nephew, your nieces, grandchild, whoever it is. Just think about what you did not have growing up, right? What was missing. You have to make sure, or, there's people that come from great families. We come from great families, great discipline. We're aware of a lot of things, but as we go, generations are different. So God bless
Yeah.
what we received. God bless what we received. So now we're going to give the next generation that and the updated information to make sure that their mental health is there. It
Of
don't
course.
matter. I understand, we have to tell our kids, you need to go to school, and I need you to make, if you want to make good money, you have to go to school. Okay, great. That's okay. Let's focus on mental health. Then we can talk about all that stuff. Go to school or don't, or start your business. Don't worry, I open up a fund for you. You're covered. You don't have to attach yourself to a pension. Mental health comes first over everything. And with mental health comes situations in schools, situations, whatever they come across on social media, whatever they come across on YouTube, because these kids, they may see kids on YouTube, and wait a second, but why I'm not on YouTube making that video? The conversation starts when you
Yep.
say, no, you can actually do that. You want to do it because that's what you're telling me.
And you got to be ready
Hey,
for everything that comes with it.
let's give it a try, because no, they shouldn't feel low. If they see something on the screen, then go ahead and they're interested in doing the same thing, and you find them comparing themselves to others, speak to them. No, you're not on there because you did not know about this. But now that you brought up the topic, why don't we buy a camera so you can just, record yourself and upload it on YouTube? Maybe that's actually better than playing any video game on the iPad. It keeps them busy. It keeps them off maybe social media or what people consider the norm, right? Have them do something different, you know? I think that's huge, man. I think that's huge. And I
No.
focus on the youth a lot because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in schools with the bullying, which is something that I want to execute, and we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna
Right.
make it happen. It's something this country does not focus on bullying. They mention it, right? But there's not really much that they're doing about it. So it's
Yep.
like, are we waiting for more massacres? Are we waiting for more children to be destroyed mentally? Are we waiting for more kids to commit suicide? You know what I mean? Are we waiting for more kids to be destroyed to actually do something about it? There's so many organizations out there, but I haven't seen a movement for bullying.
Because the way that we're set up right now is it's reactionary. You're not planning for the things to deal with it in the moment. But you sure do want to react when something negative happens. And the thing is that if we, I've mentioned it before. I think I mentioned it already earlier. But what did I say? The enemy will use anyone and anything, right? If you go and you look, I think it was the social dilemma, I think it was on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. They get all these programmers
Sounds
from all
familiar.
these social, from the social media
Oh,
platforms,
you
different
brought that
social
up.
media
Yeah, I
platforms.
haven't seen that. You brought it up.
But if you look, what do these programmers say? They go, we actually designed this social media platform in this way for this purpose, for this to happen. And they're like, it's not at all. The whole reason that you now have them joining groups to speak about the negative aspects of social media while they're doing documentaries about these kind of things, right? Is because they are realizing that we've made this a certain way, but for a number of different reasons, enhancements afterwards, the greed of other people, or just the artificial intelligence learning on its own, how to keep you hooked. We're starting to see the negative aspects, and it was never what we were intending it to be, right? So what happens? Let's say that you get this, that you're putting out supposedly something positive, you're putting out a like, but it's really a negative reinforcement because you're seeing this picture of somebody on vacation. So boom, you double tap, there goes that like, right? And you keep scrolling, and there goes another one on vacation. Boom, double tap, like. What ends up happening is your feed starts to get tailored to what you like. Why? Because in order to keep, to give you that positive reinforcement, so you keep coming back, like that reward, right? I need to give you something that you like so that you'll like it. And that way you spend more time on the platform and you continue to, I give you something, you give me back. In terms of your time, I give you something, you give me your time. I give you something, you give me your time. And that's why so many people could be like an hour and a half on TikTok with no problem. You know what I'm saying? Because it's feeding them what they want to see. But you got to think, what happens? You see somebody taking a vacation, you like it. You think it's a coincidence that you start seeing these things of other people taking vacations? Some of them might not even be people that they might be, recommendations and stuff that comes in these feeds that aren't even from people that you follow. And it's like, next thing you know, you seeing vacation after vacation after vacation spot. Like, that's what you see. Or if you like somebody's thinking about a car and another person's thinking about a car, now you start seeing another car and another car and another car. It might not have been made that way, but the enemy sure can take what was made for a certain reason and change it and be like, now I'm going to use this, what would have been something to entertain you or for you to give a positive reinforcement out. I'm going to make it so in your face that it now starts to affect you negatively, because now you start, what you chose to like, you start to get flooded with it so much, then now that like becomes a desire. Why can't I have this? Why can't I get this vacation? Why can't I get this car? Oh, these people getting these jobs and all this different stuff. Oh, this person got, this makeover, whatever it is that you're into, because you liked it a few times, you start getting it more. And now you're bombarded with it. And now you start to compare yourself with that. And that makes you feel a different kind of way. And now you're hooked. If you think about it, it's like the people who who inflict the pain on themselves and they
Yeah.
can't stop. It's like you can't stop doing it because you don't want it, but you're so used to it that it's like, okay, let me receive it. It's almost like I deserve it. You know what I'm saying? And you don't deserve that. You don't deserve to have all this in your face, a constant comparison of where you're coming up short.
Yeah.
Yesterday I asked, when I preached to the youth yesterday, I asked them a question. We talked about kind of piggybacking off what we were discussing last year with the new year, you, me. I was like, what's the reason for your resolutions? Like, why do you have resolutions? And it was like, well, it's because I want things to be better than it was before, right? Okay, so you're admitting that you make a resolution because you want an improvement in a certain area of your life. Well, why have you waited for that improvement? Or what even made you feel that you needed that improvement? You feel me?
Yeah.
And it's like, now you need to ask yourself, we get back to the original question. What makes you feel like what you have is meaningless or that you are meaningless? Because it has to be something that makes
It's
you
something.
feel, in most cases, that it's not enough. And I actually want to give props because you were talking, some people, are just doing what they can do, even if they're giving like the fast food on the table because it's the most that they can give, or, with that job. Yo, there are some people that don't have much of anything that might even be watching right now. And just the fact that you are still here, like that you're still here on this earth after the year that you probably went through last year or the year before, or whenever, and the
Yeah.
experiences and the losses that you've had, all the L's that you've taken and everything, that from a mental health perspective, you've been strong enough to be like, I know that this is going to get better. And I'm not going to let my mental health deteriorate. And I'm going to keep pushing through it. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get by, like this is just temporary. And I know that something's going to change. Something has to change. Just the fact that you're even here deserves props.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that commit suicide because it's too much. Especially now in this day and age, you really want an interesting read whenever you that's watching has time. Go and look at depression statistics and suicide statistics ever since like the last 15 years, 15, 20 years. And what you're going to find is that the number of depression, patients and the number of people who are committing suicide increases after a certain year. The only thing that those years have in common?
What's that?
Social media started to move higher and higher and
Look at that.
higher
Yeah.
in usage. And in fact, the years where it became more explosive happened to be in the years that the smartphone started to come into more people's hands.
Because they have more
That's
access
not
now.
coincidence. That's not coincidence. It's because before you used to be in front of a computer screen. If you were in something like AOL, or if you were on MySpace, or if you were on something like that, you had to be in front of the computer to see that comparison. And most people weren't in front of the computer like that.
No.
Now,
And if they were using specific programs,
exactly.
Even the times when it was software.
And it was for a very short period of time. You know what I'm saying? Even if you were on there for an hour or two, you weren't going to sleep with it. You weren't waking up with it. You weren't having lunch with it. You see what I'm saying? But what's happened is that we've gone from in that time frame where you start to see that increase in amount of suicide, particularly, especially amongst teens, especially amongst young adults. I'm talking about anywhere from like 13 to like 30 or even 35. You start to now have, if you look at those years, it's a point in which we no longer were reliant on, I'm going to look at my computer screen and I'm usually looking at my computer screen on my downtime or during lunch at work or something like that. But I'm not waking up to it. I'm not going to the bathroom to it. I'm not there, you know, looking at it while I'm in the shower or something like that.
They don't get a break from it.
But now all of a sudden, these statistics increase because you don't get a break. And if you think that you have a break, let me ask y'all, how many of you have purposely ever left your phone behind because you're like, I don't want this right now. Like, I don't want to see anything about that right now. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You take it with you because you're like, well, in the event of an emergency, somebody's going to hit me up, somebody can reach me, blah, blah, blah. We make the excuse. But what
It could be a
happens?
simple notification, you know what I mean? A simple
Exactly. But what
notification can
happens
get you right back
when
in.
it sees that you're not in use? You get the notification. So and so got, you know, so and so put up this post. This person hasn't put something in a while. Go see their post.
Yeah,
Oh,
those are the
so and so
notifications.
like
Yep.
this. Go check it out. All of a sudden, you start to get these notifications. Why? Because it wants to draw you back in. It is not healthy at all
Mm-hmm.
from a mental health perspective to have this. For, you know, somebody made a good point. First thing in the morning, what's the main question? Are you looking at your phone before you go pee in the morning or when you're peeing in the morning? There's only one answer. You know what I'm saying? So that, like, people are now asking those kinds of questions. That is
Yeah.
not healthy. So guess what? Whether you're a believer or you're not, you know, or you're not a believer in Christ, there's one thing that we can agree. There's a major distraction right now in your life. There's a major distraction. And guess what? You're watching this feed through that distraction. But the thing is, most videos out there will not tell you that truth.
Mm-hmm.
That the enemy wants to distract you from your blessing that's out there by feeding you something constantly. Let me keep you hooked, because if I keep you hooked and I keep you entertained, you won't pay attention to all the things that you're going to be missing out on. You
Yep.
feel me? That's why people are desensitized. That's why people, let's ask the question. How many of you guys, you know, that are out there that are watching, when you go to bed, do you, if you have a partner, if you have a spouse, do you talk to your partner or your spouse? Like, if it takes you 30 minutes, let's put a hypothetical, right?
Half of them are doing this.
Takes you 30 minutes to go to sleep. Let's say it takes you 30 minutes or an hour to go to sleep, right? How much of that 30 minutes or hour are you taking to build up the mental health of your partner, to ask, yo, how was your day? Are you doing all right? How's this? How's that? How is work? How's your mom? How's your sister? How's whoever? How many of you guys are asking that question instead of this? And then what happens is, you got one person on one side of the bed, you got another person on another side of the bed. None of you guys are talking to each other. Your mental health is deteriorating. You're there filling the void with this, when there's something much deeper that you need to fill. You don't have anything filling you because you're not having a conversation, right? You're not doing anything. You're just there like this, and all it's doing is making you more empty. And then guess what? Not only do you have the continued emptiness, but you ain't even falling asleep in 30 minutes to an hour, because the light from that phone is keeping you up 2 or 3 hours. And next thing you know, you want to say you got insomnia.
Or the
you know
content that you come
is?
across. Or the content that you come across.
And what is your insomnia? Your insomnia is the fact that you can't let it go, because you're letting it dig a hole. This was never intended for that. This was never intended for that. And that's why we're missing out on so much blessing in our lives because of this. And we won't disconnect. It's so important for you to realize, are you paying attention to that? It's not good for your mental health. And the thing is that what you're receiving more than anything else is comparison. It's comparison. You know what I'm saying? It's funny videos to distract you, and it's comparison. It's usually one of two things. And that's not, it's not healthy for you. It's not.
And you know, life is already hard as it is. You know, for like social media to be affecting you or your family, you know, for attaching yourself to certain things in order for you to be good mentally or in a great mood, you know, because if you're not in a good mood, you are going to affect others.
Yep.
You know, it goes back to having the discussion with your partner, you know what I mean? Or you know, for those who are single, they may have a friend that they talk to, you know, that they're open with or whatever. It's very important to have the communication. Because when you communicate, you're base and it's funny, I have something here that has to do with that. You're letting it out, you're letting it all out. And the person that's receiving it, obviously you're trusting them and you know that they're gonna give you something real good right back, and this was gonna keep you going, it's gonna give you that push, it's gonna give you that motivation, versus someone else is gonna, invite you to something temporary. You know what I mean? Oh, you want me to stop by and have a drink, or you want to come by my house and have a drink? No, there's some things that you just have to either keep to yourself or discuss it with someone you trust.
Yep.
Not every phone call is like what is it? It's not something that's gonna help you get away from all those thoughts. So that's very important. That's very important. Communicate, because that does go a long way. And going right back to what I mentioned last week in the past episode, you have to be aware of, aside from choosing your friends, right? Because there's not many out there. But most importantly for your partner, right? It's the person that you choose to be with forever, right? The person that you choose to raise your children with, whether you have it with them or not, because sometimes you have stepkids, whatever the case is. The whole point is to have a strong and healthy support system, right? Once you have that, it's a life hack. It's something that I say that's a life hack. Why? It no matter what happens at work, how bad your day went, you're going back to your safe haven, to your safe zone, to your home, where there's no reason for me to take it out on anyone. There's no reason for me to overreact, because when I get home, I have someone to talk to. When I get home, I have someone who supports me. I know someone that's going to tell me whether I was wrong or right. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing after another. So it's very, very important to choose your partner. Choose your partner, because it goes a long way. And that's also going to be passed on to your child. They're going to see these things. They're going to feel it. Whatever you're going through, your workplace is going to feel it. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you're at, it doesn't have to be a workplace where you're socializing. They're going to feel it. There's people that have negative vibes, and not because they want to be negative. It's because of what they're going through. And sometimes they don't even see it. There's people that envy you, not because they're envious, but because they're going through it right now. And they're like, why isn't that me? Why don't I feel that way? Why am I not living like that? Why isn't that the partner that I have? You know what I mean? The whys, just think about it. The list goes. So people have to be aware. Something that I must say, once you're aware of these things, all these life hacks, you view life differently. You view situations differently. You react differently. Things that you did in the past, or the way that you reacted before, is not the way that you're going to be reacting now, which is the whole point of experience. That's why most of us, right? Because there's people that stay the same. But that's why when we get older, we get better, wiser. Let's just say wiser, because of the experience. We learn from these things. We learn from the right and the wrong, because no one is perfect.
Yeah.
No one is perfect. You learn from the right
and that's
and
why
wrong.
it's important to have the right people around you too, because the thing is that in a lot of cases, you're not going to learn those things from, if you have the wrong people around you. It's very easy to be stuck in the same thing. I can give you a great example from my life, and I think that you've gotten to witness it here in the last year and a half too, in your life. I remember, I would say like 3 years ago and before that, financially, it was like, I couldn't make wrong moves. You know what I'm saying? Like money, it was like money out of everywhere, like just taking good trips. Buying whatever whip I wanted, and for the family, of course, not trying to Ferrari it out or nothing like that. I'm not trying to
but
not trying to spend money, the wrong way or anything. But it was
necessity.
Yeah, it was like money was a non-issue. It would be like, I need something, my family needs something, boom, there it goes. Like, no problem. You put the Amex down and it's done. You know what I'm saying? Everything was good. And I remember that at that time, even though I was, even though I was a believer in Christ, I called myself a Christian, I didn't really even have a relationship with God like that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I called myself a Christian, but I wasn't really, I didn't have the relationship. There was a relationship
Yeah.
aspect that was missing. And I remember, I've talked to you about this before. There were times where I had a stack, like a stack of money that most people will never have, all of a sudden hit me in one shot. It'd be like, yo, guess what came in the mail? Boom, stack of checks. Count the amount of checks, and it'd be like, what most people would make in a year, I would have it right there in my hand. But you know what would happen?
Blessing.
It would be a blessing. But what would happen is the enemy would come in my ear and be like, how you gonna be doing in 6 months? You gonna have money in 6 months? You gonna have that money in 6 months? And it'd be like,
it's dangerous.
How could I be doing so well, but I don't have peace at all, at all? And meanwhile, here in the last few years, God has called me to do something different. God has called me into ministry. And when you make a change, many of you guys don't know, when you make a career change in your life, and this hasn't even been a career change yet, because it's not something I'm doing full time yet. It's something that's probably like 60% of the time, 70% of the time, but it's not full time yet.
But you're getting there, though.
But it's getting there.
Steps that you're taking,
But it's one of those things that it's like, all of a sudden, God called me to do something, and I'm obedient. I'm giving my time to it, because a lot of people, a lot of times, thinks money. No, your time is more valuable than anything else, and being obedient to what He calls you to do is more. It's a lot more worthwhile than anything else. And what happened was, meanwhile, I could have struggles where all of a sudden it'd be like, I can give you an example. Right in the height of COVID, there was a point where I got a family to feed. There we are, family of 5. Jay Mejia knows the story. Family of 5. I had $150 in my account. No money coming in nowhere, nothing happening. And all of a sudden, God tells me to go bless somebody with like $125. And it's like, what the heck are you asking me to do? Are you serious right now? But it was like, not questioning it. I mean, in my head, I have it like that, but I'm like, my immediate thought is, let me hit this person up, and I'm gonna be obedient. And sure enough, the person that He guided me to had needs that they were down to their last $5, and they had gotten angry with God. They had talked to God in a terrible way, and was like, how is it that I talk to people about you, and you saved me from jail, you took me out of prison, I talked to everybody about how good you are, and you left me with nothing. You got me down to $5. I don't even know how I'm going to eat. And when I hit that person up and I was like, yo, God has this for you. Here you go, a bill 25. That person was like, yo, I was just telling God, and I felt so bad that I told God this. How could I do that? Yo, and that person started to give testimony, because that's what we're called to do, is give testimony. And there's people that got to know God because of that experience. But what did God do with me? I was down to $25, and I didn't know how I was going to even feed my family for the next day, right? All of a sudden, I get an offering from somebody, boom, in your Venmo. I ain't asked for anything. I didn't ask for a dime. All of a sudden, I hadn't told nobody the story. All of a sudden, somebody hit me up, $600 in my Venmo. Boom, here you go. It was like, what? All of a sudden, a customer hits me up. Yo, my bad that I kept you ghost for 3 months. Yo, let me go ahead and hit you up with some money right now. Boom, here's some money. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I have learned that even in the moments where I have nothing, where I have close to nothing, I don't worry anymore, because I've been around the right
experience,
people.
man.
Exactly. I've been around the right people who have had a relationship with God, who know what lack is like, but know that God has never left one with nothing. And I've gotten it to see it firsthand. And because I got to see it firsthand, I believe it, because I'm like, this person wouldn't lie to me, because I know, and I've gotten to witness it. I've gotten to experience it. And as a result, it's given me the confidence to tell God, I'm going to do the same, because it's what you're calling me to do. And over the last year and a half, things haven't been easy, but I've given you direction, because from what I have learned from a pastoral calling, but even more important than that, with you essentially being my little brother, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I want this for somebody else. And if I want it for somebody else, first and foremost, I want it for everybody. But I want it especially for those that I love. So when you were going through certain things, it was like, let me show you for a second who my God is. And I'm going to give you some tips, put this to test. And it's like, you've seen God move like never in your life before.
Big time, big time.
But why? It's because you have people around you who know, and you've gotten the life experience. But when you don't seek the people with the right experience to be around, you'll never get out of it. And I'm not just talking, I'm not just talking about from a spiritual perspective, but I'm even talking about financial.
Yeah.
If you're broke and you surround yourself with nothing but broke people, how can you ever expect to get out of a broke person mentality when you're chilling with broke people? You see what I'm saying? You'll never learn what it took for a financially wealthy person to become wealthy if you're chilling around broke people who have a broke mentality and can never get out of a broke mentality, because none of them surround themselves with anybody but the other broke people. It's not to say that you need to leave people in the hood behind. It's to say that you can't better the hood if all you're going to do is be with the hood. You need to learn from somewhere else so that you can be made better, and that way you can make those around you better. And you can't do that if you're just doing the same thing.
Right there.
You feel me?
That's a fact.
And it's the same thing with God. If you put yourself with God, you know, with first of all, if you connect with God, you're going to receive godly things. You feel me? If you do that, and guess what? Some of the godly things that he's going to put around you are people that are connected to him, that have been made successful by him, and acknowledge that he is the one that made them successful. So you can expect that same degree of success for yourself, because this is a God who doesn't change. So if he's willing to do it for Joaquin, that means he's willing to do it for me. And if he's willing to do it for me, it means he's willing to do it for you, if you're willing to know who he is.
That's right, man. That's right. And you know what? Again, it goes right back to experience, right? What we've experienced, what we see.
Absolutely.
And this is the reason why we provide this platform, you know, because not everyone is willing to put that out there, you know, those testimonies, you know, because, you know, everyone goes through situations. You know what I mean? It's not like you have money all the time, you know. It's critical, and this is why we're providing the platform. And again, I always take it right back to the youth. When it starts young, they start preparing themselves mentally, and not always they have to go through a situation to learn from it. Obviously, that's when you learn the most. But if you hear about it, you'll be able to identify it, you know, which is why the communication is important. You know, this is why we're providing this platform. It's a lot of gems coming, man. There's a lot of gems coming.
And let me tell you,
putting it out.
Let me tell you,
you know, the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, no, but not only that, let me tell you that this is especially important, you know, because we talk about the youth, and the youth is not just teenagers. In fact, if you are a parent,
it's a range,
and you have a child who is younger than a teenager, I mean, a teenager, you know, you can still work with them a little bit easier, but children, the beautiful thing about children, those are you guys, you know, and ladies that are parents and have young children, the beautiful thing about children is that you know that they don't doubt anything. They believe, especially if it's coming from the parent, they believe what they're told. If you as a parent is like, yo, I'm going to take you to Chuck E. Cheese, that kid is going to believe they're going to Chuck E. Cheese. Or, mommy, I want this toy from Target. All right, we're going to get you that toy from Target. You might not go today, you might not go tomorrow, but it doesn't matter if a week passed by. That child comes with that child heart, and it's like, my mommy, my daddy told me that they're going to get me this toy from Target. I'm going to get it. It's a childlike attitude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what happens, this is why this platform is so important for you to realize that this is not just to build up grown-ups. This is to build up teenagers and especially kids, because you could take this to your children, you know? Because what happens is if you start to realize that this is the truth, you might have some trouble believing it because you're a grown-up, and with us, we got to kind of break our habits and break what we've been taught and break our experiences to learn and see. Sometimes we got to see to believe instead of believe to see, you know? And God calls us to believe before you see. That's faith, right? But sometimes we need to see in order to believe as grown-ups. But if you start to see that, like, yo, this is for real, and this, I can see it happening. Like, what's being talked about here is real. And you start to change your mindset because you're like, this is for real. You know, the beautiful thing about it is that you can take it to your children, to your young children, even to your teenagers, hopefully. And what you start building in them is a completely different mindset. Because you start, imagine, if your child never learns these things, but now you get to go to your child and you're like, yo, check it out. I didn't believe this before, but I now believe it. And I now see the success in it. You know, my son, my daughter, believe this, believe this, believe that this is what your life is about. Believe that you can be positive, that these things are going to change. You're going to see good things in your life, that this is what you have to do. And you start applying these things to your life. That child is going to believe it from the time that they're little. And when they get to be a grown-up, they don't have to break the mold. Nobody has to break the mold in them because they already have it in them. And now they have that in them. And you're talking about now generations change because you're choosing to believe right now that it's not meant to be the way that you've always lived it. And now you start to give this to your teenagers and you start to give this to your children and they start to believe it. Even if they don't see it, they start to believe it. Then that's the beautiful thing because we're called to believe. It's faith. We have to believe, right? We have to believe. And sometimes God has to show us in order to believe. But now you can teach your child about what their life should be like, and they'll believe it without seeing it. And because they believe it without seeing it, when situations start coming in your child's life, they're like, man, I'm in a real tough situation right now, right? You're talking about now this child that used to be 6 is now 18, 20, 25, 30, 35, 60, however old they are in their life. They're always going to have it instilled in them that even though I don't see it, I know what I believe. And I'm going to act according to this because I know that I'm going to get something different. And their life is forever changed. They're not going to fall into it. Even from a mental health perspective, this helps to bring them into the right mental health because they're not going to be depressed. Oh, I didn't get this and my life is over. They're going to be like, nah, I'm now in a situation. I now know my parents taught me from the time that I was little that I can get it. I'm going to get it. Case in point, funny enough, we have some family members in here right now. Tia Morena and Raulín. We have a cousin right now in a farm system in baseball. He didn't have such a good season like a season or two ago, but he was rooted in what God says about him. And he knows what God says about him. So when the difficulty came, he knew what was to come. And he's not the only child. They have other children that believe the same thing. And things haven't always been easy. But when the time comes, the time of difficulty, they know what God says about them. And they push through. All of them have a degree of success. You want to tell me that that's coincidence? That's not coincidence. That's two parents knowing what God says about them, knowing what breeds success, instilling that in their children. And when their children had difficulty, they didn't care. They know what God said about them, but it's because their parents put it in them from the time that they were younger. They knew what to expect. That's why they're reigning in this very moment. They are living the life of kings and queens on this earth that God says that we're going to be because they knew what God said about them before. Do you not want that life for your children? Do you not want that life for yourself? You have to understand what God says about you so you can make that change. And when you make that change and your child sees that, even when you don't see it, if you believe it for yourself, I want to encourage you right now. If you believe this for yourself, even though you don't see it, but you're like, okay, hold up. I know that God is saying something different about me, though, that this is not my situation. I'm not meant to be like this forever. This is going to change. Things are going to change up.
It's temporary.
I encourage you to go ahead and declare that. Declare that you're not going to be stuck in the same situation, but at the same time, go to your child and encourage them and be like, you know what? Things are always good. God is good. Things are always going to be good for you. Don't worry when things are not good. Encourage them. Encourage them because as you build them up, when they get to be older, when they get to go through the ages where you encounter difficulty, you know what's going to happen? They're not going to worry. They're going to know exactly what's coming, and they're going to weather the storm. But it starts from a young age.
It starts at a young age, which is what I mentioned before. You know, it's very important, especially when they start school, because we won't know what's happening in school unless we hear about it from staff or if we hear about it from them directly. Half the time, it's not like our child or children are gonna come to us, right? Unless we have that relationship with them, that
Facts.
open communication, as mentioned before, because it's very important. We want to know what's happening outside of the home. We know what's happening in the home. We want
Yeah.
to know what's happening outside of the home. We have to make our children feel comfortable with coming to us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we won't know, for those that have access to a phone at an early age, we don't know what's happening in that phone. We don't know what are the
Mm-hmm.
type of messages that they're receiving, whether it's through social
Absolutely.
media, whether it's a direct text message. We don't know if they're getting negative comments in school regarding what they're wearing, regarding their hair length, regarding their skin color, regarding just in general. It can be anything.
Yeah.
If a child
Facts.
feels down, that's going to hurt them mentally, you know, and the more we communicate with them, the stronger they will be. When those negative comments come at them, they're going to be strong enough to say, I don't have to pay attention to this person. That's
Exactly.
his opinion, his or her opinion, and we have to build them that way because we've
Exactly.
we've we've seen things growing up. We've seen a lot going. Some of us even went through it. You know, and we had all the discipline, all the communication. But some of us might have been limited to the type of communication that we had with our parents.
Yep.
Which is why again we provide this platform to encourage. This platform is full of encouragement, reminders, gems to remind you. Stay in communication with your child. Stay close. We hear about all the suicides that take place. We see it happen even with famous people.
Yeah.
Famous people that have crazy money. That have a crazy following, a crazy viewing. So where people would think, oh, if I had that amount of followers, I wouldn't pay attention to
I
one or
wouldn't. I
two
wouldn't be
followers
like
that,
this. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be, I'll be happy. No, it's bullshit.
Yep.
Everyone is human. Everyone's affected. And you never know how much they can take. Everyone has different capacity, different limits. Their limits are
Right.
different mentally,
And
which
you
is
want to be
huge.
the one to, and you want to be the one to set the mold, to create the mold.
You have to.
Don't be
You
the
have
one
to.
who has to break the mold. Because let me tell you, it's going to be a million times easier for
Harder
you to create the mold in
than
that
breaking it.
child than to break it. When you get to the point that you got to break that mold, there's a lot of difficulty that can come with breaking the mold in that person. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it's like no matter how much you try to drill it and get it to go, it's like that person, they can't break it. It's just like it's impossible. You know what I'm saying? By the way, if
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
anybody that wants to give any testimony or encourage, anybody, or even talk about something, again, we
Yeah.
encourage you guys to join up. You have
You
the
know what?
option there somewhere, I believe, to
Who
get
we
on.
got? Who we got here? Hold on a second. Oh, okay. This is good. Not sure if it's working. I'm trying to accept a call here. It might take a few seconds, but
Yeah, I think last time it took like about 10, 15 seconds to link up. But if you do have something to say, we do see it in the chat. Thank you for those of you guys that are dropping. I mean, they're dropping gems tonight here in the chat.
yeah,
But
yeah. What we
if you
got?
do want to join up as well, if you do have something to say, you have something you want to discuss, if you have testimony, absolutely, we want to encourage you to go ahead and send the request that you want to be on, and we will put you on.
For sure. Let's see what we got here. Sometimes we're afraid to break cycles and forget our kids have voices and are humans. 100%, Marshy. 100%.
Absolutely.
100%. Let me see. That's the foundation. You can build on a weak foundation. You need a strong foundation. Yep. Yeah, no, today, yeah, we're going hard today, man.
No, absolutely.
We're definitely, it's huge. It's huge, what we're doing with this platform.
Yeah, and the thing is, God doesn't want you where you've been. If you feel that you've been being stuck, especially when the topic to start the evening has been, about feeling essentially worthless, feeling like there's no value, believe me, you have value. You have value beyond what you can imagine. You know what I'm saying? There's so much value for you beyond what you can imagine. A storm or a difficulty does not mean anything in the least
Mm-hmm.
thing. It does not mean anything in the least bit.
And we have to
It's
remind ourselves
it's a
that,
distraction.
and anyone going through it, anyone going through it or ourselves, we have to remind ourselves, because again, we've been, or I can even speak for myself. I've been in situations where I thought, and we're talking years back, even young, the way that I saw things, it's like I thought things were supposed to be a certain way, uh, and I was totally wrong about the whole view that I had on life. It was a total mistake, you know. Like just thinking about it, I'm thinking back, and I'm like, wow, things would have been so much different. But you know what? There's no regret, because if
Yep.
it wasn't for those experiences, then I wouldn't know what it is that I have to focus on and what we have to give out
Wow.
to the others.
Wow.
You
I
know,
want to share
there's
with you something real quick because
this is why we're here.
what you just said is so crazy, right? I want you to repeat what you just said, Joaquin. Pay attention to what this man just said.
You know, like I said, there's no reason to regret the past. The way that I viewed it. Oh, things would have been different, because the reason why we're here today is because of that. And what we're
Yes.
doing with this platform is because of that. This is the
Yes.
calling.
And that goes yesterday, the topic or the main piece of scripture that I gave to the youth, which it was a powerful preach that we gave to them. And what God spoke was just crazy, but it goes based on what you just said. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called to according to his purpose for them. So I'm going to read it to y'all one more time, and I'm going to break it down real quick. We know that God causes everything, not just the good things, not just the bad things, everything. So when you encounter that difficulty, it is exactly what Joaquin just finished mentioning. Those bad situations, they built towards something. They made something there. That it gave something of substance for it down the road. So now later on, you're seeing the fruit of what you had to go through before, the negative things before, what you thought was negative. It was never negative. It was a positive, right?
Yeah.
But it causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. His purpose, not your own purpose. His purpose. But the thing is that his purpose is something good for you. Now, what's key about this, this is something crazy for you too, right? Because I think that this is a gem for you, particularly. It's together for the good of those who love God. And the thing is that here, over the last year, you've come to learn who God is and come to love God.
Yeah.
It's something that you've started to do. In fact, what we're doing right now has a lot to do with God being the basis of it. So it's doing something for him because you love him. And ultimately, you know what? You want to know, because a lot of times people, especially Christians, will be like, oh, this means that all Christians, the good works for them. No. It works for those who love God. And do you know what it means to love God? God has two commandments. They asked Jesus, what is the best commandment? And he said, there's two. Love God above all things, right? And love him with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and all that stuff. But the second one is love people, love other people, love your neighbor as you would yourself. What are we doing here? We're doing this because we love people. And we don't want people to be stuck in the same thing that you've been stuck in for the longest. We want you to receive what we know that God has for you. And because we're doing that, all things work for the good of those who love them. So down the road, you're getting to see, you know why all that stuff worked for my good? Because you love God. And ultimately, now you're getting the revelation. All those things from back then, they all worked out for my good. Every single piece. You're not going, oh, which a lot of people out there do this. Oh, my life is not this, and I'm not getting this break and that break
They're
because of my
miserable,
past.
depressed.
They're living miserable. And they blame their now and their future because of their past. But those who realize something different go, hold up. God loves me and I love God and I want to love people. And because of all that working together, all this is going to work together for my good. And you start to, maybe not in this moment, it might be a year, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years down the road. You're like, oh, snap. this is working for my good. And not only is it working for my good, but it's working for my good for the purpose that he has for me. And guess what? God's purpose is always good. God's purpose is always good. He never wants anything bad for you. Don't get it twisted. When bad things happen, it's not because God is angry with you. By all means, he's not. He wants to bring you closer to him. He loves you. And when you get to see that, it's like, yo, he has such great things for me. For real. I can be witness to that in my life. Jay Mejia, I've seen in the last year and a half, crazy situations that it's like, yo, it can't be anything else, anybody else other than God that saved you from some ridiculous situations that it's like, yo, but how did that happen? And not only that, you even got word in some of those cases of how it was going to happen and what was going to happen, because God spoke through people of God to you about what was going to happen. And when in those impossible situations, what God said through those people happened. Like, yo, we ain't Miss Cleo up in here. You know, you're not going to call us for a tarot reading. It's like, we don't work in that.
Rest in peace to Miss Cleo.
It's like, no, you're starting in a certain direction. And you've gotten to see that over the last year and a half. I'm not a special circumstance. You're not a special circumstance. We're all eligible to receive all of that. The question is, do you want to receive that, though? You feel me? If you want to continue to be in the same miserable life and all that stuff, that's cool. Do you? God will leave you alone? That's fine. But if you want something different, tonight, he's letting you know, I say something different about you. And I'm going to take all those negative things you've ever been through, all the bad things that you've ever gone through in your life, all the broken relationships, your broken home, the issues you got with your family, this person who don't act right with you, the bad financial decisions you thought you made.
People need to wake up, man.
All of this, I'll make it all work for your good.
Yeah.
You just got to wake up.
They need to wake up and accept, you know what I mean? And if the past 2 years haven't shown you this, especially the past 2 years, you know what I mean? Experience should do it itself. But these past 2 years, everything that's been happening, it's like it shows and proves to everyone that life is short. You know what I mean? And it's not the way we have all the time in the world, right? But now with all this craziness happening, we don't know if tomorrow's promised. You know what I mean? We don't know if tomorrow's promised. Why am I bringing that up? Because there might be certain things that are affecting people and causing them to be the way they are. Grudges, right? Anger, right? Situation that they're in that has them depressed, right?
Yep.
Full of anxiety, you know? And honestly, we just have to accept that things happen. What can we learn from this dark moment, right? And keep moving forward. And keep moving forward. And just improving, you know, self and helping others understand. You know, one thing that I've noticed for the past years is that I have the ability to put myself in someone else's shoes, you know, even though I was learning along the way. Because even though you have abilities and all this stuff, that doesn't mean we're perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect, you know, but there was a lot of stuff that I was noticing. And I'm like, how am I able to express myself this way? How am I able to write so good? You know, I remember years back, I never found myself speaking in front of a camera. But I can tell you why I never found myself speaking in front of a camera. It was fear. You know what I mean? It was fear.
Just to share a little, bro, it's funny that you say that, because whoever sees me now is like, yo, this dude's been speaking for the longest. Yo, when I was starting to do anything for God, I was in a back room and I never wanted to leave the back room. And I was like, I'm going to do all the technical, all the computer stuff to get, you know, to make it so people can hear a message online. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what God is going to use me for the rest of my life. And he's going to help me to make it so other people can get messages out. And God had a completely different idea of what he was going to do. And he put me somewhere to speak to people. That was never my comfort zone. Ever. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because
you ended up on that stage.
Yeah. And somehow I've been on stages.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it's very similar to our situation, what I'm about to say. Sometimes it's just not the right time. You know?
Absolutely.
I would say that maybe it wasn't a good idea for me to get in front of a camera, because even though I was full of good advice and experience, was I applying everything that I was learning at the time?
Ooh.
I gotta be real because we're being transparent here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Was I really, whatever advice I'm giving someone, was I applying everything that I was learning? It's like if I tell you, Pastor Carlos, I don't want to see you drinking soda, but I'm drinking soda. What am I doing? You know, for that I just won't say anything. You know,
Yep.
so it's huge. It's huge, and that's the reason why. Because there was a lot of things that I wasn't doing in the past, and I have to be honest, all the way from bad habits to the lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really have to get specific, but the time is gonna come. You know, the time
And
is
again,
gonna come.
and again, it has nothing to do with perfection because you and I both know
No.
we are far from perfect. Believe me, we are
Mhm.
far from perfect. But there comes a point in which you realize that you don't have to be perfect. You
Mhm.
realize that there is somebody who perfects you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where you come up short, there's a Jesus who fills in the gap, and
Mhm.
he makes you where you're weak, he makes you strong. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the
And
difference.
this
And when we
and
mess up,
this
he picks up the slack.
exactly. There's a lot of stuff, you know, like even aside from like well, it has to do with experience. I mentioned it before in our past episode in the workplace where I used to work. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's where they used to donate body for science. And when you see all these cadavers, all these dead bodies that I would prep for courses, you know, is basically to help advance science, you know, to help advance the health system here in the U.S. You see things different. It's like, how can you even, um, obviously, there's times where you're going to feel like you hate someone, but then you find yourself like, wait, no, hate, that's, that's not really it. It's just that, you know what, maybe I have to stay away from this person, you know, but you can't really wish anything wrong to happen to them because that could be us. What if I was the one committing the mistake? You know what I mean? What if I was the one being disobedient? You know what I mean? What if I was the one being ignorant? You know, the same way that I felt for that person, even though I knew, or, you know, or anyone, you know, it's like that can be you. You want to be hated. You
Yep.
want people to talk about you, you know? So it's like a lot of stuff that you learn along the way. When you
I
see
think we have
this,
somebody, by the way, that wants to give a quick testimony. I think
I'm
that
happy
is
to share a short.
Leslie, if I'm not mistaken. You might want to try to
Okay,
see if you can get her connected. But finish your
cool.
thought, and then let's try to connect her.
Let
I
me
think
see.
testimony is
Yep,
always good.
I do have it here. Yeah, so Leslie, stay right there. I'm gonna get you in a few seconds, all right? So, you know, there's a lot of things that change. You know what I mean? No one is perfect. Um, life is too short, you know, and you want to do the most while we're here on this earth. We have to do the most, you know, and
Yeah.
there's always time to fix things, to make it better. It may not be, you know, the same as before, but you can always make it better. You know,
Yep.
you can always make it better. Again, it has to do a lot with, like we said in this episode, the influence. You know, it's the influence, it's what you're receiving. You know, those point of views. Sometimes what you're receiving is not the right information because is it good for you? Like, okay, that's an opinion from
Yep.
that person, but what is it good for you? Like, you know, do you see yourself? Look at yourself, ask yourself, pray. You know, it's okay to receive advice, you know, because it's good to get different point of views, you know,
Yeah.
different opinions, because you can't always go from like whatever you're thinking, you can't go by that.
Yep.
You always have to go to someone, you know, to see. And before we put Leslie on, I want to say this because I know there's going to be a lot said after this. Um, most of the time, the way we view life, right? Because it has to do with what we just finished talking about. Most of the time, the way we view life, our perspective is based on our thoughts. Whatever you think will come to reality. It will come to life. So if you think your life is shit, pardon my French, it will be or become shit. No matter how hard it may get, remaining positive and being consistent with positive thoughts will avoid putting yourself in dark places where you get all the dark thoughts, right? Because remember, what I just finished saying right now, it can actually cause you to make the wrong decisions, you know? You're thinking stuff that doesn't exist. You know, it's making a problem a lot bigger. This may require to work out, meditate, pray, speak what you're feeling out loud, or maybe even write it. Just write it, because sometimes I'm one person. Now I've been getting a lot better, but I'm a person that I have so many thoughts, and sometimes it's hard for me to express myself, and it sounds like I'm all over the place, But I have my method to, keep it organized, or make sure that I put it all out there and make sure I don't miss anything, because I can't hold nothing here.
Right.
Or here, you know what I mean? It's for our mental health. And if you have someone close who you can trust, speak and let them hear you out. The point is to vent. It doesn't matter to who or what. Vent. You can do it in your bedroom, late at night. Pray, just the fact that you're letting it out. God is hearing you out. That person that you're on the phone with is hearing you out, or even through text. You're letting it out, and that's a huge move,
Yep.
Our thoughts tend to fool us big time. The bad situation may be real and actually happening, but the bad thoughts or overthinking would prolong and make a situation worse. It causes us to react or remain negative, like there's no way out, or when you resolve one problem, there's another one lined up. That's the way we see it whenever you're having those type of problems. Let's put Leslie in. Let's see. All right, I think it should go through. Leslie, I sent out the request. Just give it a few seconds. That's one thing. There's like a little delay whenever you accept the video chats. There's a little delay, but that's huge. You know what I mean? Again,
No, absolutely.
like we said the previous episode, awareness. Let me try. I'm trying to. So I did accept it. I think Leslie just has to accept it on her end. While we wait for Leslie to connect, I want to thank everyone for joining us, being, engaging in the chat heavy.
Yeah, the chat has been
God
off
bless
the
you
hook
all.
today.
Yeah.
Off the hook today. Real quick, I did have, while we get Leslie to join on here, we did have Mejia de la Rosa brought up a great Bible verse. Definitely, if you get a chance, write down Jeremiah 29:11, but I'll read it for you guys that are connected right now, because it's such a great thing. And the word says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and to give you hope." I'll even go a step further, because I think the next few lines are important. So it's not just to give you hope and a future. And it says, "In those days when you pray, I will listen." So those of you guys who are like, man, you know what? I might listen to what Jay Mejia is talking about praying there, and what they've been talking about seeking. Know that it says right there, in those days when you pray, I will listen. And if you look for me wholeheartedly, so you look for him with all your heart, you will find me. And it says, I will be found by you, says the Lord, and I will end your captivity. Sometimes the captivity that you got is that mental or that emotional captivity that you might have, right? And he's going to restore your fortunes. And that fortune doesn't have to be monetary. That fortune can be in a lot of other areas, because a lot of times people think, which especially with Christianity right now, you think a lot of prosperity gospel and people think of money. When God says to be prosper, and when God talks about fortunes and stuff like that, it's not always talking about financial. It's talking about like every area of your life, because how many times do we not say like, yo, my kids, like, yo, that's my treasure right there. Like my son, my daughter, like, that's my gift. That's my treasure. Think about that. A treasure is a fortune. You're talking about that your child is that, you know what I'm saying? Or you talk about the value of your spouse or your partner. You talk about that has a value. That's like a fortune. That's like a treasure. So just know, if you're putting this, if you want to know what God says about you, that is so good. Jeremiah 29:11-14. He has plans for you, and they're plans for good. They're not plans for disaster. He wants to give you a future, and he wants to give you hope. That's the very first thing. And the second part is, if you seek me, I'm going to be here. You're going to find me, like I said. We're going to encounter each other. right? We're going to have an encounter. We're going to get to know each other. And I'm going to take away everything that's been holding you prisoner. And I'm going to restore back to you that fortune. So just receive that, because that applies to you who's watching right now. It's up to you if you want to accept that or not. You know, and if you want to accept it, know that you have every single right to accept it right now. You're not excluded from that. Go ahead, give her a try again. I think she might be good to go now.
I keep trying, but I keep receiving the message that she's unable to join. So I accept it again. Keep trying.
There we go.
There we go. What's up, Prima? What's up?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, Pura de Papa.
Good.
What's going on?
Love you guys. I am so proud. I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you.
I want to tell you, I came in late. I think I came in when you guys were talking to your kids. So right away, you know, I'm like, oh my God, this subject, whatever. And then, you know, it just evolved to something else. And at a certain point, I'm like, no, I don't want to talk. I know I'm talking loud when I get on this, but I have a testimony that's amazing. This is like, you know, the day was prepared for what you're saying. You guys know Robert Arenda's father, BJ, and you know, after and you know I'm much older than both of you, so I've lived many years, you know, that you were younger while I was going through certain things, and this was a person that I never thought I was going to be friends with, because you know a lot of things happened. Meanwhile, now he's, you know, my accountability person, you know. God heals, you know, so that's one testimony. But today I'm talking to him, and you know, we're going through certain things. I mean, life seems like I've lived a long time, and at the same time, it's like this, you know. And we're looking back, and he's telling me, you know, it's unfortunate that certain things have happened, and you know, that it went that way. And I mean, it was a great conversation, because he's saying, you know, you deserve something else and whatever. But I'm at a point in life. I've reached a point in my life with God, with my relationship with God, where those things that, and I'm telling you, it takes a second of your life for things to happen. All those things that would hurt for me to think about, all those things that, you know, we come from a culture that doesn't speak a lot of things to their kids, because you'll be exposed, you know. You'll expose yourself.
Wow.
And really, those things are not
that's huge,
horrible. It's just that we're not prepared, you know. We don't come from people saying it's okay for you to be wrong, it's okay for you to make a mistake, it's okay for you to allow your children to see that, and for all of you to grow together. We come from, you better make it right before you mess up people's lives. And they meant well, but you know, we never lived this moment before, you know. And so, as I'm telling you, you know, there was a lot of hurt and a lot of fear, you know, and a lot of frustration and those things. And again, I came in late, but I'm trying to, you know, bring
this is good.
Together.
This is good.
Sort of, you know, what I've been hearing with you guys. Those things seem or make certain parts of it in your life seem like, okay, well, you know, emotional disorder, mental disorder. No, it's things that you haven't healed from, you know. And I mean, I know,
yes,
but certain things, you got to call it for what they are. We bring this from, you know, this is generational, which I don't like to make that responsible, you know, because we can overcome all these things, and through God, especially, we overcome. So, and again, I'm sorry, I'm trying to put it all together, and get to my point.
Take your time.
So, okay, so, you know, again, hurt doesn't allow you to move on if you don't let go of it. And especially with this man, I mean, you know, I raised these kids in a way where I could be really upset with this man because, you know, but we're talking healing, you know, we're
Yep.
talking future. And as I said, when I heard him say that, I saw like my whole life like a movie. And it came to, I don't know if you guys ever saw the butterfly effect.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
First thing that came to my mind, because even though, you know, I would like to justify all these things that shouldn't have hurt like that, shouldn't have gone like that, I shouldn't have had to go through. I look back and I'm like, wait, if I wouldn't have lived that, I wouldn't be here today. And when you said that, Joaquincito, I was like, oh my God, this is what
Yeah.
this is about today. No, I can't. And I'm telling you, at almost 52 years old and having gone through all those things that I never wanted to go through, I can tell you today, I am grateful for those things. But not only grateful for those things, grateful for the fact that I could see that God was holding my hand through everything.
Amen to
So
that.
this
Yeah.
moment, I could say, and listen, I don't know how to tell you, healing, total healing. You don't know who I am today from what you know what I was before. That's what God does for you. But you have to make a decision to
Mm-hmm.
faith, you know? You have to make that decision. This thing that you're talking about, wake up the next day and know that, you know what? I'm going to overcome because there's a promise. I'm going to overcome because I already overcame.
Yeah.
You know, connect that and want to go to the next step. You know, a lot of people, you just want to stay in the pain. You want to stay in what you know. You want to stay in the fear. You want to stay in the unknown that everybody put us through. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's my testimony because I'm telling you, in all the years, and you guys know, I know how to smile through things. You know, I know how to be grateful. I mean, you know, many of the things that have been overcome in these past years, nothing like today. And there was not, you know, it was just a matter of looking and accepting that God had a plan, that was his plan. I'm so grateful, you know. I'm so grateful that this could be the last day of my life and I'll go, you know, I'll go
Mm.
fully content that this moment was lived, you know. And again, I decided to come and share this with you because even though we're cousins, you know, look at us, we're three different age groups here, you
Yep.
know, but you guys have been there to see it with your own eyes.
It's like what we mentioned, the different generations.
Things,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
No, and the beauty of it, Leslie, if I can share real quick, is that when I look at what you put on your social media, what I see is how you connect with so many different people, right? There's so many different people. Some of them are family members from marriage. Some of them are just very close friends of your children who essentially are like your children,
Yeah.
right? And the thing is, does this experience that you gain stay with you? No, because these are people who haven't gone through easy situations. Some of them are not living through easy situations. And the thing is that what you have gone through, not only did God heal you from that, but at the same time, your testimony and what you've lived through allows you to guide somebody else to be able to deal with these situations and not deal from because this is why yesterday I gave the youth as I preached to the youth, I gave them a good example. I said, what is better? Think about what's better for God. For somebody that he says, Leslie, I'm going to wipe the slate clean for everything that you ever did. And yes, he does wipe the slate clean. He sees everything as if it never happened in terms of the things that you've done wrong, right? He can do that. But in terms of what you've actually done wrong and the things that you've lived through, he still makes those things exist. What has more power? Does it have more power for people to be like, oh, never, like kind of like Men in Black style, like never remember anything that she ever lived through, never remember her past, never remember anything. And all you're going to see in front of your face right now is perfect Leslie. And that's it. And perfect Leslie is going to tell somebody, hey, don't worry about this. Life is going to be better. That person will end up like, but who are you to tell me? Because you've never gone through anything. Compared to Leslie, who's gone all through all these things, who has been perfected by God, because you have continued to be made a perfect creation by God. Jesus Christ, through the Holy Spirit, continues to do that, and he continues to perfect you. We're not perfect, but he continues to perfect you. And because he continues to do these things, and he makes these things work for your good, what ultimately ends up happening? The day that these kids are going through their things that they're going through, perfect Leslie is not there with a clean slate past that nobody gets to see. Perfected Leslie through Christ is there, who has gone through all these things, who God made perfect through everything that she went through, because he was there holding her hand through the whole process. Now can tell somebody who's going through the difficulty, hey, guess what? I went through it, and I got to see God work with me through this and lead me through this and help me through this and make sure that I was never alone, and look at where I am today. So I can tell you with confidence that you can do this and you're going to be through this. That's the power that God has. That not only did he allow you to say, this is a day in which my life, I can leave this earth and be fine. But if I'm here, there are people going through that difficulty who can hear what I've been through and hear what God did for me in that time and see that he'll never leave you alone and believe it, because it's testimony. That's testimony. And that's why it's so important.
And you know what? And I want to say something. It's crazy because you said two things that are, I mean, this is people have to take this. One, I'm perfect in his eyes. I'm perfect in his eyes. I'm perfected here. I'm not perfect here.
Right.
And I cannot, and it's crazy because, again, having gone through, and the testimony with what I started with, this is a guy, and he knows it. And, I hope that people are seeing this. I used to say, if I saw him and he's crossing the street, I'm taking him with my car. I'm telling you, that's who I was then. That's how much pain. And, I mean, you guys know I was 20 with a set of twins, you know how that was. But this is my accountability partner. I told him when I picked up, I'm like, look, I know how it feels to be an addict, because when you have to go through hate, and I put this on Facebook, I'm Leslie, but I'm not the Leslie of before, because we make choices that might not be stealing or, hurt, whatever these things are, but we make choices every day to forgive, to to move on, to not be bitter. Those are choices. And those are very important choices, because that changes the trajectory of people's days, of your children's lives,
Yeah.
But to go and speak to him, and honestly, with a clean heart, where I got to with this? Because I'm telling you, total, and I think Carlos, total healing. Forget about forgiveness, because it's healed everything that we've done. Brought two families together, okay? This situation. And now the gift and the lesson that has been left is all our grandchildren. Okay, now we have grandchildren. And I have grandchildren from him, grandchildren from my second marriage, from my marriage. Nobody knows what's going on. They just know that they got all these healed people. Okay? This big family, and honestly, unless it's necessary, we don't have to talk about anything. Like you said, we're healed people. And you could see it with eyes, because like, that's what God does. You know what I'm saying? So again, the big picture is that we're at this point, and all these people get to the point of, listen, this is where we come from. And they've seen it with their eyes. You see, I don't have to come and say, oh, well, I don't have excuses. I don't have to talk anymore. I don't even remember what it was. that I did wrong, or that, because we all do something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, 20 years old, I didn't have to make certain choices. I should have made others. He should have made others. You should have made others. We all have a responsibility. And that's another thing that people have to understand. Life doesn't just beat you up. You put yourself in predicaments where now God's going to take you out of it. But you got to know you're in a predicament and everything has a consequence. But you'll also be blessed, and God will give you for those ashes beauty, and
Absolutely.
I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this. All right. I love you
No,
guys.
I love it and respect it, Prima. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
with us.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for testimony. So important. So important.
Definitely.
All right. Have a good one.
Yeah,
Love
that
you
was
guys.
huge.
You too.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Love you too.
How do
That
I
was
get
huge.
off of these? Quítame
Let me
de
see.
aquí.
Let me see. I'll tell you right now.
Oh, hey, wait. Dile
What's
a
up?
Morena that I read what she said. I love her.
Yeah, she can hear you. And
I
you
love
have
you guys.
Yep. Everyone was really excited. They really appreciate what you put out on this live. That's a huge step, man. That's stuff that we can take forward, We have to
And I think
register
that,
that, you know what I mean? Learn from it.
yeah, and I think from what she put out there, there's a lot of people that are receiving healing tonight
Yeah.
from very similar situations. So if you're on here and you receive something, just know it's not an accident that you heard what you heard tonight. You're hearing exactly what God wanted you to hear tonight. It is not coincidence. In God, there's no such thing as coincidence. You're going to find that. As you get close to him, there's no coincidences in the least bit. Believe that.
Yep. All right, guys. Take me off because now I'm looking at myself. I can't do this.
You know what? I think you might have to disconnect it on your
All
end.
right, I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna get off and come back.
All right,
All right,
cool.
bye.
Love you.
Love you guys.
Love you. Prima.
Yeah, for some reason I wasn't receiving the option on my end, but at least we know all they have to do is leave the live. So moving
That's
forward,
right.
we can let it, any other that wants to join. So yeah, that was huge, Yep, she definitely received a lot.
Thankful that you received. Absolutely.
Yep, Lord is there. Yep, amen. Yeah, but that was good. Yeah, we hit it right on the money today. It feels good, whenever we're discussing all this stuff, and just the fact that people relate. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
People are passing it on to others. Look how Leslie just finished expressing herself, where it's not only us. That's why we encourage everyone to engage. Get on the,
Yep.
Put a simple message in the chat. Send a request to be on video. Anyone can be on the video with us. We would really appreciate it. Well,
and from what we talked about earlier, again, it's the beauty of everything working for your good, right? Everything working for your good. And this is somebody who is giving you an experience essentially about 30 years later. 30 years later, you got to think about that. I know that the relationship that they've had has gotten better over the last few years, but you're talking about God being able to do anything. You know what I'm saying? God being able to heal anything. And even if it's 30 years later, he takes something and uses it for the good of that person. You see what I'm saying? Of those who love him. So it's putting it to the test. You've gotten a chance to hear a completely unexpected, a testimony of somebody sharing something that they would have never expected. I mean, you're talking about after 10 years, sometimes even after 5 years, you're like, oh, I'm just going to feel like this forever. You know what I'm saying? But when you realize that God can do what he says that he can do, that God is a healer, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you can't describe it. You just can't describe it. And if it took somebody 30 years, but God fulfilled the promise 30 years later, imagine what he can do in your life if you're just willing to believe that he could do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And the lives that I can see that she continues to bless, from those experiences, I mean, there's people going through things that a lot of y'all probably can't imagine. And it's like, but there's a purpose behind it. And now what she's gone through is being used to glorify him. So it's just a beautiful thing. And it's just, that's what we're talking about. The experience that we want you guys to receive in your own life, you know, because when you do that, starting with your own house, starting with your kids, I mean, don't you want your kids to receive something different than what you've been going through?
That's right.
I know I do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
Definitely our kids, and you know, every other that are out there, you know, who are like a part of the family, whether it's extended, you know, immediate, but even just the fact that we have technology and we're able to, you know, do these lives, create these videos, you know, record such testimonies like Leslie's, you know, that we're gonna have this, you know, forever. You know, it's gonna be on our social media platform. It's gonna be on our YouTube, you know, and anyone can watch it, you know, and the fact that we always tell everyone and we encourage everyone, you know, to continue to join us, continue to, you know, promote us. You know what I mean? Just grab a clip of the video, you know, or simply just tag someone in the comments, because we always post it on our page. Well, it goes on my page and it goes on the YouTube, you know.
Right.
But just the fact that you're able to tag someone and just pass on the message, you know, never keep this stuff to yourself. You may know people who are going through it, kids that are going through it. We're gonna be doing a lot bigger things moving forward, you know. God is in charge of that. You know, we don't have to put the details out, but as we go, you're gonna see a lot more happening. The fact we're grateful for everyone that's on now, and for the people who aren't on, you know, they usually comment on YouTube or even on the post, but mostly through DM. You know, just simply thanking. You know, thank you for putting this type of content out. You know, and I think we should even, you know, just start. We're grateful, but start giving the thanks on our story. You know what I mean? So people can see that everyone's engaging. Again, this is a platform that I'm not sure, but I don't think there's anything like this out there. I don't think there's anything like this. You know what I mean? Like just the way that we put testimonies out, you know, how we put this type of information. We obviously come across the information, whether you on Google, social media, whatever it is. But the fact that you're hearing it from two individuals that is living life, you know, going through it, has gone through it, and just putting it out there, we're setting fear aside. We're being very transparent. You know, that way we make others feel like they're not alone, you know, and honestly, you're not, you know. So I hope that our platform makes you feel like home, makes you feel comfortable, confident, you know, raising awareness, you know, because that's one thing. The more you hear about it, the more you believe it. The more you hear about it, the more you believe it. So we're trying to keep that consistent, you know. It's definitely the calling. So definitely appreciate it. I want to put, you know, just I guess to end it and then wait and see if anyone else want to jump on or if they want to send a message out in the chat. Quick reminder, you know, it's our thoughts become reality one way or another. You know, with everything that's discussed on this live, we know our thoughts become reality one way or another. What you think is what you become. And that goes to you, that goes to the situation you may be in, the situation you were in. You know, let's stay woke. You know what I mean? Let's be real with ourselves. Focus on healing. Focus on positivity. There's a whole life ahead of us. We have to take advantage of our life now and not worry about our past or worry about our problems, because it does take away from what's present or what's ahead of us, you know? So that's that. I just had to put that out there before we end our episode today. Anything you want to say, Pastor Carlos?
Yeah, and you know, with what you just mentioned about having those positive thoughts and everything like that. Again, I want to remind you guys the verse earlier. There's numerous verses in the Word that tell you, you know, the power of the tongue is that it can give life and it can give death. So what you speak, it gives life or death depending on what you're speaking, if it's positive or negative. And you're going to eat the fruit. If you're speaking negative, you're going to eat the negative fruit. If you speak the positive, you're going to eat that positive, life-giving fruit, right? So I just want to give you guys an opportunity. And again, we talked about there's no coincidences. This is an opportunity in which I believe that the verse in Jeremiah 29 that Tia Morena went ahead and gave us is a perfect verse as declaration, right? As a declaration. This is an opportunity for you to be able to speak life into a situation. It might be that you already got good life, but you want more. But at the same time, it could be that you're going through a struggle and you want that promise of having good plans coming. So I just want to give you an opportunity just to prophetically speak out exactly what's here in this word. And I'm just going to repeat it. If you feel that this is for you and this is what you want to see, you want to speak this into your life, it's an opportunity for you to go ahead and repeat it with me. So that's, I'm going to just simplify it so that it's something that we're reading from the word, but for yourself. So just say to yourself, I know the plans that God has for me. And God says that they are plans for my good, not for disaster. And he wants to give me a future, and he wants to give me hope. And that when I go and I pray for him, he's listening to me. And if I'm going to find him, if I'm trying to seek him, he is going to find me there too. And that he's going to free me from whatever's holding me in my mental jail, in my emotional jail, in my physical jail. And he's going to restore all of that back to me. So just take that in and just take that in, speak that over your life. Remember, he has good plans for you. They're for a future that is good, not for a future that's going to be disastrous. So just receive that for your life in the name of Jesus.
Amen. Amen. All right. So we want to give anyone a few seconds, minute, if they want to drop anything in the chat before we get off, or if anyone wants to join on the video chat before we get off, you're more than welcome. While we wait, again, I just want to thank you all for joining us, for taking the time. Instead of watching a Netflix series or a novela, you're actually with us for 2 hours, sometimes over 2 hours. And as we mentioned before, it's always going to be, we don't have a set time. It can be an hour one day, 30 minutes, but it's been more than an hour for the past few episodes, and we really appreciate, because time is precious. And we know there's people that work early tomorrow. There's people that have homework to get done. They have to attend to their kids. I hope if you are watching with your child, that you are with your child right now, that you're watching with them. Because again, this is great information. So really, thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate it. What did Leslie say there? Is this? Yes, Leslie.
Yes, it will be there. It'll be there this evening. So just look for it this evening.
Yeah,
I'll send you the link directly as well.
Okay, perfect. I was just gonna mention that, and it's also on Instagram on my page. You can just click on like the airplane icon. It's like the paper airplane. Is that what it is? It's like
I think so.
A paper airplane.
Like a paper airplane,
right? And you can just send it out. Share it with others. But obviously, if you want to share with others outside of the platform, it's always good to get the YouTube link, or straight off of YouTube. So we'll definitely put that out. But again, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
And just remember, teach your kids, make that mold. Don't have to break that mold later. Build them up to be successful.
Definitely. All right. So I think this is it. This is it for tonight. For today, this is a great way, better than novela, soul food. Yeah, soul food. Yeah. Amen, Tia. Love you. Bendición, Tia. Who's on? I think Mommy's on. Bendición, Mommy. Bendición, Papi. Marcy, Lori. Thank you. Liani, if you're watching, thank you. Who else we got on? I don't want to miss anyone. The Queen Jade, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Really appreciate it. Melly, thank you. Love you. All right, and before we get off, today's Thursday. It's the end of the week. I hope everyone's been having a great week. And if not, remember, it's temporary. Whatever it is that you're going through is temporary. Um, it is the end of the week now. Hope everyone has a blessed and great weekend. Take full advantage of it. Doesn't mean to wall out. When I say take full advantage, it's just cherish those moments. Whether it's with family, friends, with those who matter. Stay safe. Stay safe because it is crazy out there now, uh, for multiple reasons. Um, who was Josh? Joshua's watching. Joshua, thank you. Thank you, Joshua, for watching. I love you. All right. Love you guys. Take care.
Take care. Be safe out there.